Good morning and welcome to Newsviews. I'm Judy Sue. Mayor Emanuel pledged to make Chicago the most bike-friendly place in the country. So we have seen the addition of such features as protected bike lanes on city streets and, of course, Divvy, the blue bicycles used by residents and tourists alike to get around town. Now something new is being added to the mix for a pilot program. They're Dockless rental bikes. The program is similar to Divvy with a key exception. There are no docking stations. Riders use an app or go to a website to locate and rent a bike. And this is a key part to the program. They're right now in neighborhoods not currently served by Divvy. Joining me to talk about these Dockless bikes, the pilot program, and what it could mean for neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side are Melody Geraci, Deputy Executive Director of the Active Transportation Alliance, and Linda Lopez, a reporter for Streets Blog Chicago, which reports on sustainable transportation. Good morning and welcome to Newsviews.
Good morning.
We should mention off the top, they both bike to work on a regular basis, avid bikers. Well, first of all, I know this program, this pilot program we just talked about, literally went into effect just a few days ago. Any initial reaction as to how it's going?
I think there's been a lot of curiosity. I think for one, a lot of people aren't familiar with it. When I mentioned Dockless bikes, well, what is that? Like, they're familiar with Divvy, but you have to kind of explain the concept to some people. And I think some people, if they're involved in the advocacy world, like bike advocacy world, they know about it. But I think I've seen a lot of curiosity. On the other hand, I've also seen enthusiasm. I don't think I've seen so much backlash yet. Because I think Divvy, it felt like Divvy, it took some time for people to acclimate to the idea of Divvy, but I haven't really seen like backlash about Dockless
How many
bikes.
bikes are we talking about in circulation right now as part of this pilot program?
Well, the city has made this available to as many companies as are comfortable doing the application process.
Okay.
And each company is permitted to have up to 250 bikes in the zone, in the dedicated zone. So I think right now we're talking to about maybe 750 to 1,000.
Okay, that's a good number.
I think there are 3 or 4 companies that have cleared the application
And what is
process.
this zone that we're talking about that's within the pilot program? How long is this pilot program?
Well, the pilot program is through November 1st and or 30th, one of the two. And the zone is south of 79th Street, all the way down to the city limit, down at 130, as far south as it goes, 138th Street, from the Chicago Skyway, and then the Indiana border over to Pulaski, I believe, is the western boundary.
How was that area determined in this process? Is it just because it's not currently served by Divvy?
I mean, that's a good assumption to make. A lot of the areas in this pilot zone aren't currently served by Divvy, so I see it as potentially a way for the city to see, is there a need for this? And there's a lot of avid cyclists in this part of the city, but they're not currently served by Divvy, so can this potential pilot show that people are excited for bikes, and can that also like serve as like showing that like Divvy has to come to these neighborhoods too?
Right, exactly. It's filling a gap.
But why look at dockless bikes, right? That's the big difference. There's no that major docking station that we see with Divvy.
Right.
Why? What's the attraction?
The docked system is it's a little more expensive to implement, actually quite a bit more expensive, because the docking stations themselves are a piece of hardware that costs money. These are, and the dockless systems are actually driven by entrepreneurial companies. Venture capital is investing in them heavily. So these are folks coming to town wanting to launch their program from the private sector, where Divvy is a public sector program.
So you can, where do you leave these bikes? There's no docking station. You can leave them anywhere that bikes are allowed?
Pretty much.
Is what I read.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it has to be in the piloted area, and I think if you go outside the pilot area, it locks, so you can no longer use it, and the companies are responsible to returning them to the pilot area.
The city has set out some pretty good guidelines as to what has to be done. They're not permitted to be cluttering the right-of-way. They can't be in the street or on the sidewalk blocking pedestrians. They need to, by July 1st, have a lock-to mechanism so that all of the bikes are locked to a stationary object. For the first few months, a lot of the bikes don't have that capability, but they need to add that by July 1st.
And for the user, you literally get on an app and kind of find out where the nearest bike is?
Exactly.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, through GPS, you find out where the nearest bike is, and through your app, and then you find it and pay for it, and then you can ride it. And then after you're done, some of them have like a lock mechanism on the wheel, so it doesn't have a U-lock that can attach to a rack. So those you can just like literally when you finish riding, it'll lock. Or if they have U-locks, find a rack or something that you can attach the bike to, like a pole.
And is the cost? What's the cost? Is it similar to Divvy?
It's less expensive than Divvy. Okay. It's $3 for 30 minutes, I think, or 45 minutes.
And it varies from company.
It's about a dollar, $1.50. It does vary by company.
Yeah, and there's a few. I think there's 3 currently already existing in Chicago. I think Zaxter, Lime Bike, Ofo, and I think Jump is also coming. So there's like several, and the prices are similar, but they vary a little bit.
We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about how this program is currently working in other cities, the ups and downs. We'll be right back.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.